It is 10 a.m. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans begin rookie minicamp this weekend at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Head coach Brian Callahan will meet with the media today at 11:20. Quarterback Will Levis will have a press conference at 12:20. You can hear both of those live right here on The Zone. In NFL free agency news, the New York Giants have signed wide receiver Allen Robinson. The 30-year-old was released by the Steelers this offseason. In transfer portal news, former Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright is reportedly on the move, transferring from Mississippi State to Northwestern for his final year of eligibility per Pete Thamel. NHL playoffs, the Panthers routed the Bruins 6-1. That ties the Eastern Conference second-round series at one game apiece, and the Vancouver Canucks outscored the Oilers 6-5 in Game 1 on Wednesday. In the NBA, the Knicks beat the Pacers 130-121. They take a 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Jalen Brunson with 29 points despite missing a whole quarter of action. Also in NBA news, Nuggets star Nikola Jokic officially the MVP for the third time in his career. For Fire foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. How is everybody on this Thursday? We're very happy to have you here on 104.5 The Zone. We got rookie minicamp getting underway in just a few hours from now. In fact, they're probably getting ready to head out onto the field. You're going to hear from your head coach. You're going to hear from your quarterback. It is an exciting day because it's football players on a football field doing football things that we have to discuss. We got Lucas. We got Jackson. We got you guys for the next 3 hours. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to join in. Good morning, boys.
We barely got you today. What happened?
Yeah, you were late.
What happened?
10:02.
I can't hear you yet. I don't have my headphones in.
Right, because he just walked in. Get a new damn key card. What is wrong with you? What were you doing this morning that was so important that has you walking in at 10:02 for a show that starts at 10?
Oh, nothing. I thought I had time. I looked down at my phone. It was 9:50, and I ran out the door. We make it work. It's okay. It's honestly Jackson's fault. I told him to prop the door open.
I did prop the door open. Somebody closed it. I am being framed.
And yet I can't hear you.
Lucas saw me go prop the door open.
Oh, no.
He is making claims.
I've got my headphones in now. What do you want?
He saw me prop the door open. I did it. I did my part. Somebody is sabotaging you.
Oh,
Not
so it's
surprising.
one of you two, huh?
It's not one of us. It's somebody else.
Well, there can be only one other culprit.
Oh, you think you get to walk in here at 10:02 and then act like you got sabotaged, and that's why you're late.
Yeah, I have a process. I'm ready to go. Like when the music plays and I hear, Feel So Good by Mace, I know that it's time to do the show. I sat down. I was here in time for the music. I started to talk about Titans rookie minicamp. I'm the most prepared at anybody here, it would seem.
Oh, sure.
Debatable.
Yeah, you just tell yourself that.
615-737-1045 is the number. Yeah, most of the time it's not like I'm doing anything. It's just, oh my God, it's time to go. I have an alarm that goes off and then, I snooze that alarm and try to get some more stuff done before I leave. Or maybe make some coffee.
You're going to be very late for a very important event, and it's going to come back to bite you, and I can't wait for that day. I hope it's something very important.
Like what is the scale? Because we should have taken bets on whether I would have been on time for the live show. And had we not had sound check at 4:30, I probably wouldn't have been. But what's the scale of the event that would do me more harm than whatever it is that I'm supposed to be there for?
I don't know.
Okay.
Major life event.
Major life event.
So what are we talking about? I mean, a birthday? I'm late to my own birthday anyway. It's not like there's anything else on the horizon anytime soon. Slay's wedding is the next major life event.
You will be late to Slay's wedding, I'm willing to guarantee.
I was late to the last wedding that I went to, but because the Cubans in Miami run on a different time frame than the rest of us. They were also late to their own wedding by about an hour and a half. So it's not just me. I get it honestly.
I was once late to a wedding because we were all waiting at the hotel for a bus that was supposed to pick up like a giant chunk of the guests.
Oh, no.
And the bus system that they rented for the wedding was way behind and totally screwed it up. So there were like 50 or 60 of us that missed the actual ceremony.
Oh, my God.
And the bus finally, it was like an hour outside.
50 or 60? That's like a third of a wedding.
It was a big bus. Well, it was a big wedding, but the bus was taking us from Memphis. It was in Memphis to like an hour outside of Memphis at like a farm somewhere. And it dropped us off like as soon as the wedding was ending. Which was fine because we just missed the boring part and we get there for the reception and for the for the good
you, but for the people who are looking out there to see a crowd of their friends and loved ones and missing 50 or 60 of you, that's pretty tough. What are you thinking in real time? Like, because most times you're not going to notice if a person misses the ceremony of a wedding, right? You got a million things going on. One would imagine, I've never gotten married, but one would imagine that you have a million different things going on your wedding day. So like, if one of your college roommates or your buddy from high school or the dude that you work in accounting with misses the ceremony, you're probably not looking around and be like, hey, where the hell's Jeff?
Yeah, you won't notice.
But if 50 or 60 of you are not present, were you walking down the aisle and thinking, oh my God, do all my friends hate me?
You know what we will notice? The lack of depth at edge rusher if the Titans have one injury in that area throughout the course of the offseason.
No, that's terrible. That's terrible.
I thought that was pretty good.
I mean, yeah, if you want to get dragged down into edge rushing depth talk again, you're going to drag me into the quicksand with this?
If we're talking roster holes, what could be worse for the Titans? What could be worse for the Titans?
I was talking about weddings, I thought. You want to do roster holes?
Safety or edge rusher? Like, we agree that those are the two biggest, right tackle is fair game.
You don't think people have had enough of roster hole talk just yet? It's rookie minicamp day, I know. We're going to drag him through 2 hours of press conferences. You don't think for just a couple of minutes? Aren't you tired of it?
I think there's one rookie that the Titans could very much benefit from taking a early leap in his NFL career.
It would have been funny to hear you say, you know who's tired of being left behind on the depth chart? Caleb Murphy. Justice for him. Is this a tease off? Is that how we're trying to do a transition off?
We should have a tease off. Be a good radio game show. Zombie Creed on the F&M Bank chat says right tackle is already a big enough question
for God's
with the starter. So are Titans fans more concerned with the right tackle spot than they are safety or edge depth?
Yeah, because the player that you know is there is bad. Is Nick Petit-Frere. You don't know who the starting safety is going to be. You don't really, you know who the rest of the starting players are going to be, but you know, as we talked about with Brad Hopkins, that at the start of training camp, it's probably going to be Daniel Brunskill. It's probably going to be Nick Petit-Frere. And if you end up with the two of them starting on your offensive line for an extended period of time that's not due to injury, something's probably not great with your offensive line room because those two players, Brunskill's a career backup. We talked about it with Brad Hopkins yesterday. And NPF to date, although he only played in, and it's not even 3 full games because he got hurt. And the Baltimore game, he came in for a benched Andre Dillard. So he really only started one, or I guess he started 2 games last year, but he only played start to finish 1 game in 2023. So I'm going to withhold outright judgment. There's a much larger sample size on Brunskill, for example. But what we've seen from NPF is bad. He's objectively bad in his job as the right tackle. Now, you gave him some grace, I think, as a rookie, because he had to start right away. You thought Dylan Radins might win the job, and then when you look for substantial improvement, he wasn't there to improve because he was suspended for gambling.
And he wasn't the worst part of that offensive line as a rookie.
No, he wasn't, but he was, I think there was a great deal of attention taken away from NPF because of Dennis Daly.
Sure. But all NPF has to be is serviceable.
That's fine, but he hasn't been.
Like, he just has to be okay.
No, I know. I'm answering your question. Why are they scared of the right tackle? And you're saying all he has to do, Lucas, all they had to do is just get slightly better from Dennis Daly. And what happened? Oh, my God, Andre Dillard, $29 million? And that guy's still getting jobs. So, yeah, they feel bad about the right tackle because they know the right tackle. And they know they don't like him, or at least to date, they don't like him. They know too much about him. His name is called too often. That's one of the worst hallmarks that an offensive lineman can have. It doesn't mean that he's a finished product or that he can't get better or that he's a player that lacks talent. This is a 3rd-round pick. He's not like a bum. You find offensive linemen all over the place in the NFL draft, regardless of what round or what pedigree you want to assign to them, that can be more than serviceable, that can be good to above average players. I have no idea what NPF is going to be this season, but to date, if you ask Titans fans, they're going to look around. They're going to look at the thing that's caused them the most pain at any given point. You were at the live show on Friday. Did you hear Cosell laugh at people? Laugh at these poor Titans fans maniacally for their tackle issues at the start of the show? He couldn't stop giggling at them because it's just been so bad year in and year out. So yeah, they're going to look at the thing that triggers them the most. They're going to say, all right, what hasn't changed? What is the same from the thing that has caused me the most pain? And the thing that is the same, or the two things that are the same, are Brunskill and NPF. Doesn't mean that the safety that they get won't be, or will be the best player available or the best player on the field at any given point, because we're going to talk about Justin Simmons and Marcus May and all these other guys that are out there still available to be signed. The safety market is stocked, so you have options, and you're going to have multiple options because, I'm sure Justin Simmons is looking around probably at the top of the list and saying, okay, make me an offer. Any one of you, make me an offer that has safety needs, down year in the safety draft, make me an offer, and we'll move forward with that way. He is somebody in this situation that's going to hold a lot of the cards. The rest of the safety market's kind of depressed, not in terms of literal depression. Well, no, it is a little literal depression with the way that teams culled the safety salaries this offseason and then sent them all on the open market to be signed basically after the draft. So we'll see what happens. Zombie Creed says, Leroy Watson, save us. Yeah, but you guys didn't know who he was until 2 weeks ago. So now this is the savior at right tackle. This is the thing. Just because the names are different doesn't mean that they're better. And just because you think a player is a known commodity in heading into year 3 doesn't mean that he is just yet. Who's the biggest question out of that 2022 draft class?
2022. Yeah, so NPF's draft class.
So that's Traylon, Malik, Phillips, NPF, Haskins, Chig. They're all a big question mark. And really, Chig is the one that you feel the best about, and you're still kind of looking at Chig with a little bit of side eye.
Yeah, Chig has shown the most of that group, and that's not saying a ton. Who's the biggest question? NPF? I think it's NPF because
they've already answered the Traylon Burks question, kind of.
Who has a better opportunity with, because you're right. Just because it's different names doesn't mean it's a better situation. These guys are not known commodities. The offensive line coach is. He is a known commodity. And I think it's okay for Titans fans to think NPF is going to be fine because of Bill Callahan. And to at least have confidence that NPF will be at minimum serviceable strictly because of Bill Callahan. Because this is 3 O-line coaches in 3 years for Nicholas Petit-Frere?
Mm-hmm. Carter, Hoteling, and now Callahan.
Yeah. So that hadn't done him any favors either.
Well, and famously, a lot of the players in the Titans offensive line room hated Keith Carter.
Yeah, and Jason Hoteling had never done it before.
615-737-1045 is the number. So, speaking of players that are a question mark in the 2022 draft, Traylon Burks, what would you do with him? You as a Titans fan, what would you do with the former first-round pick that's sitting on your roster, buried on the depth chart? Would you move him, or would you keep him for depth? 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. Giles says Callahan already needs a raise. You think he came in, looked at the starting salary, said, all right, then got a hold of the Titans offensive line room and said, wait just a second. I'm going to need a little more here, guys. This is a much heavier lift than you initially told me. Anyway, we'll talk about Traylon Burks, what the Titans should do with him, what you would do with him as a Titans fan, coming up next. Brian Callahan's going to speak to the media at 11:20 today. You'll hear from the Titans head coach. Now, they haven't made the Tyler Boyd signing official, so be curious to see whether they throw him up there in front of us without announcing the new wide receiver that they have reportedly signed. So no confirmation yet from the team. I'm sure they'll get questions about it. He'll probably get up there and say, if they don't make an announcement, hey, no, there's some stuff out there in the media, still working through the process on some things, so I can't answer any questions about that right now. Unless, of course, they announce it, and then he'll talk at length.
In the Vrabel Times, the press release hits, the transaction comes out immediately after the press conference.
That is true.
Right? It happened quite a few times.
Well, no, that's not done on accident. It's, hey, Mike, well, it's like, the days that Mike would talk before practice. What the hell am I going to ask you before practice? Which is done by design because he wants it to be as short as humanly possible. Let's get on with the day. If somebody gets hurt, I don't have to answer a question about it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So, how Brian Callahan or what Brian Callahan is asked about today, we'll see. We'll hear from Will Levis for the first time in a press conference setting. What, since locker room cleanout day?
Yep, since pre-Vrabel firing.
Now, you've heard from Will Levis because Jim Wyatt talked to him after the Super Bowl or at the Super Bowl about Vrabel getting fired. He was at the Masters, sat down with Laura Rutledge and was asked about, I think, not specific free agent signings, but just basically all the newness around him. And this will be a more specific conversation. And also he's had the opportunity to work out with these guys for a little while now because having a new head coach means that they could open up their offseason program earlier and get these guys into the building even faster. And he's been around. He's been around the facility basically the entire summer, save the few weekend trips in a golf tournament here or there. So be curious to see what he has to say. The question that we're asking, though, is what would you rather do with Treylon Burks?
I've been happy with
Somebody sent me, one of the listeners sent me a reel on Instagram that was a cat making a similar sound to Slay. So I'm not sure if I like the cat sound better or that sound better.
I've been happy with
Every time we talk about Treylon Burks, is that because it's a scary conversation?
It's whatever you want it to be.
I think it's funny.
Clearly. A little trigger happy back there with the buttons.
I've been happy with
Yeah, that's what I thought. Would you move him? Would you keep him? Is he even a viable trade asset? We talked about the Jerry Jeudy deal, 2024, 5th and a 6th. He got paid on the other side of that deal. They did not. Jerry Jeudy, a former first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
If not a high second. So Jerry Jeudy not getting commensurate value for the draft asset that you spent, but you can turn a 5th into a 6th into something. And for the Broncos, who were pretty light on draft assets at the time, it made sense. And you don't have any salary cap to pay him. And not that you would want to overpay Jerry Jeudy anyway, especially when you're paying Russell Wilson almost $40 million to go away this year. Treylon Burks does not have as much value as Jerry Jeudy did. We can all agree, yes?
You're not getting a day 1 or a day 2 pick for Treylon Burks.
Are you even getting a 5th? Because that's I would say if you move him, it's not even a salary dump because he's on a rookie deal.
Yeah. First round picks are always going to get another opportunity, right? Like Isaiah Wilson got traded. Andre Dillard got, not the second contract that you want as a left tackle, but got a pretty decent contract at a free agency after not playing for the Eagles. And if I'm not mistaken, the Eagles just refused to trade Dillard, right?
Oh, yeah.
There were teams interested in Andre Dillard.
Correct.
Before the trade deadline, after doing nothing in
for
Philadelphia.
as much fun as we make of him, his existence, his continued existence as a professional football player speaks to the desperation. Because there's moments when he can do the thing that left tackles are supposed to do. And that is enough to give him another contract in Green Bay.
So is it worth trading Treylon Burks and sacrificing a little bit of that depth for a 6th or 7th round pick?
So just some feedback from the YouTube comments, and you can interact with the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You also have the phone number, 615-737-1045 if you want to interact. Would you trade him? Would you keep him? Timothy Bennett, why do folks want to trade our wide receiver depth? Depth will be needed. Bryce R. says, I would take a 6th for Burks at this point, can package that to move up and get you something before he walks. Now, he has 2 years left on his rookie contract, plus a fifth-year option that one would imagine he is on a trajectory to have declined. But to Lucas's point, he's a former first-round pick. Former first-round picks continue to get opportunities long after they deserve them. And Treylon Burks is only heading into year 3. So as down on the Treylon Burks experience as I am, that doesn't mean that you should just throw your hands up in the air and throw them to the side. In fact, Ran Carthon, speaking about the need for wide receivers on the Install Live show that is now available to you in your podcast feed, your favorite podcast feed, also on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel. Ran Carthon speaking about the need for more wide receivers and also Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you can never have enough wideouts, as you guys know. Just attrition, as much as those guys have to run, there are going to be some injuries somewhere along the way. And so we're always looking to continue to improve the depth there because, like you said, 11 personnel is what the NFL has played in. Over 60% of our game is played in some form of sub packages. And so, we want to be able to put weapons out there. And, even though we have, wideouts to run 11, we also have 2 backs that can be, problems out of the backfield. So really excited about that and how this whole thing.
And they can both detach too. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not just in the backfield. So if we talk a little more about Ridley, like when you put on his tape, what do you see? Because you hear a lot of people say some guys are a really good route runner, and Calvin Ridley is. So to you, what does that mean?
He's an elite separator. I think he does a really good job of making all of his routes look the same, off the ball, and he attacks it, just all out full board to where whether he's running a slant, whether he's running a comeback, everything looks like a go ball, and it puts the DB on his heels. So a lot of the game now, guys will play off coverage, open bail, and they try to run and get out of there. And so for a guy with Calvin's speed to be able to close that cushion and get on their toes, which now forces them to open up their hips. So now it gives him a bunch of ways to go. And I think, at the top of the route, there's not many guys that are better.
So that's Ran Carthon. Again, that's courtesy of the Install podcast with Greg Cosell, the live event that we did last Friday. You can check it out in your podcast feed. Subscribe to 104.5 The Zone on YouTube, and you can watch it there later this afternoon. Specifically, Ran Carthon's part 1 is already available on YouTube. So you can never have enough wide receivers. Because I went into that thinking that he was going to get questions, Ran was, from the audience about Tyler Boyd. And he didn't. And maybe it's because we didn't have enough time to take as many questions as, I thought we might. He was going to take the kids and the family to the Morgan Wallen concert afterwards, so I wanted to get him out of there on a timely fashion. And typically when you ask people like that questions about players that aren't on their roster, what's the answer that you get? Well, we're still working through some things right now. We got a lot of irons in the fire is basically the generality that's given until a player is signed, sealed, delivered under contract. You're usually not going to get a general manager or a coach to comment on ongoing pursuits of free agents and things like that.
And it hadn't even been reported at that point.
Well, no, it had. He was there the day before.
Right, but it hadn't been reported that the Titans were signing Tyler Boyd.
No.
We had no idea if Tyler Boyd was going to be a Titan.
But that he was taking a visit, which, I think most people would have at least thought, okay, maybe that's, and I don't even think it had been reported that he left without a contract just yet. But either way, we don't have to get bogged down. The general manager just answered the question for you. You could always use more wide receivers. I fully expect them to go into this, at least into the initial 53-man roster, with minimum 8 wide receivers on the active 53. I think that, just based on what we know of the head coach's background, what their offseason acquisitions have told us, both in free agency and the draft, what already exists on the roster. I don't know if those numbers are going to include guys like NWI or Kyle Phillips or Mason Kinsey. By the time it's all said and done, Kyrus Jackson, those kind of names still floating out there. But I would expect 8 minimum on the 53.
So guaranteed, of the guys that are in the building now, Hopkins, Ridley, Boyd, which is not official yet, but reported. Then we'll say Burks, Phillips, NWI, and Jaquan Jackson. That's 7. And some competition there at the bottom with Trayshawn Harrison and Mason Kinsey and a couple of Kyrus Jackson. But how much more could Treylon Burks, because if his value right now, any trade value you would get for Treylon Burks is essentially because he was a first-round pick, right?
Yes.
Right.
That's the same reason you got anything at all for Isaiah Wilson after that mess.
So his value can't take that much more of a hit. If we're saying you could probably get something for him, he's a first-round pick, they're always going to get more opportunities. So his trade value is not really going to go down that much more, barring something catastrophic.
Agreed.
So, which means that there is upside to his value if he does anything this season. So what's the point of offloading him now for maybe a 6th, 7th when you can keep him, have that depth this season? Obviously, there is talent there. See if he can stay healthy. And if he gives you anything, see what you can get for him in the offseason if you want to go that route. Like, give yourself a better problem to have, right? If he has a decent season and he surprises a little bit, then the issue becomes, okay, well, do we actually want to hang on to Treylon Burks, who showed some stuff this past season, or do we want to trade him because his value is far better now than it was in the summer of 2024?
I think the more viable path, and it's not one that we've posed to you because we've posed to you trade him or keep him, but we didn't say when you might trade him. If he looks viable at the trade deadline, that's something that I'd absolutely consider. Because I saw some stuff out there, it's just like one of those football rumors accounts, like breaking football rumors, which is not anything. It's just stuff on the internet. But I saw aggregators and things like that on Titans Twitter saying, breaking rumors, the Titans could move DeAndre Hopkins at the trade deadline if their season is in the crapper or whatever. I have no idea whether that's viable or not, and that they would that those options would not be on the table, or at least being considered. You have to have multiple plans, and those things start to get worked through, not at the trade deadline. You have to start thinking about them well in advance. But I think it'd make more sense to try and move Burks if things, one way or the other, if he looks good and teams are calling, but he's not getting the play time, I'd rather move him than Hop, to be honest with you. In that situation. But are you going to move him to a place like Kansas City, for example, who give you no value on the dollar, hardly? You bring him in, you probably win a Super Bowl with Treylon Burks, and how sick would that make Titans fans?
But if Burks looks good and suddenly becomes a trade asset, then how much do you start thinking about, like we've talked about many times,
keep him here?
The 1, 2, and 3 receivers on this roster, like we've said a lot, will be 30 by season's end or older in the case of DeAndre Hopkins. So is it the worst thing if Treylon Burks shows something to have some sort of pipeline in your building for that position moving forward?
Nope.
So that you don't have to go back to square one whenever Boyd, Ridley, or Hopkins' time is up, whether that is contract up or the drop-off comes.
Agreed. Treylon Burks, through 2 seasons as an NFL player, he has played in 22 games. He has caught 49 passes. He has 665 receiving yards total in those 2 seasons. And he has 1 receiving touchdown in 2 seasons. He does have another touchdown that was a Derrick Henry fumble that Treylon Burks did recover in the end zone after, I think Derrick got it like punched out, peanut punched or something like that.
Yeah, against the Bengals.
Yeah. I'm not willing to call him a bust yet, though. I'm not. And I know that most Titans fans are probably there with him. In the same way that I'm talking about, hey, if you don't 100% know about Will Levis by season's end, you probably look at moving him, if you can, depending on how this goes and if he's healthy. If you don't 100% know about Treylon Burks by season's end, this is as important a Treylon Burks year as it is a Will Levis year for all the reasons that we've just outlined. Viability here in the future. They're going to need wide receivers in the not too distant future. Boyd, reportedly, it's a 1-year deal. Hopkins is technically on a 1-year deal. It's an expiring contract. We'll see if they pursue extension talks or let him test the market and then potentially bring him back. Jimmy Wyatt has talked about the idea that he could foresee a future in which DeAndre Hopkins would be on this roster in 2025, but technically 2 of your 3 are on expiring contracts, and the other one, as you mentioned, is going to be 30 by season's end.
Who needs a bounce back in year 3 worse, Burks or NPF?
Worse?
Like both get a lot of time
for
rookie
them
year.
Personally?
Yeah, for them.
For them personally, Treylon. For the success of the team, NPF.
NPF, yeah.
Because Treylon's impact has now been mitigated substantially. NPF's is still very much, front and center. So for them individually, Treylon is 100% the answer. For the success of the team in 2024, You need Nicholas Petit-Frere to turn into something that's just competent.
But why is Traylon definitely the answer then, just for the individuals? Because as we said, Traylon has that first-round pick background to fall back on.
Sure.
He's going to find another opportunity.
Because
is.
The other answer is Malik, and that becomes, it's just less, I don't know, it's less realistic. I don't want to be harsh about it, but that's kind of the harsh reality of Malik Willis' situation, even though I consider his situation to be very unfair. What's happened to Malik Willis has been very unfair. But football is not fair. Work atmospheres are often not fair. Life is often unfair. And how he meets the moment and overcomes, I don't want to say that it's entirely dependent on him, but it kind of is.
It's tough. It's so hard to imagine a worse spot for him to have fallen into, right?
Well, it's a bit of a nightmare because it should have been the best possible situation. It was painted out of those not first round quarterbacks, because he obviously wasn't. He was a third rounder. But out of those 2022 quarterbacks, he was in the best position, theoretically. And then it all goes to bleep, right? It all just goes up in smoke in front of him. And all of a sudden he's out there wide-eyed against, who was the first game that he played? It wasn't Houston. That was the first start.
He started against Kansas City.
He started against Kansas City.
That was
and
after Houston.
Yeah, because he won the Houston game. But which, I can't remember the game before that Tannehill got hurt, and I want to say
Colts. Yep.
So you toss him out there. He's wide-eyed, and, he's got Derrick Henry, and he doesn't have to throw a forward pass, or he doesn't have to complete a forward pass an entire second half of football against Houston because the run defense is so porous. But Malik Willis it's just gone wrong at near every turn. And I appreciate that's not reflected in his body language or in his attitude or his demeanor. That's the right approach. Whether he's able to succeed or not, it's going to be one of the more interesting stories of training camp, even if he doesn't end up on the active roster by year's end.
So in the end, we're saying keep Burks. If you're not going to get more than a 6th or a 7th, keep Traylon Burks on your roster this season.
Even for a higher day 3 pick than a 6th or a 7th, I would probably keep him.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Titans fans are no stranger to injury, and if he is viable at all, and if he can be a benefit to this football team at all, he is probably worth more to you right now than a future 5th. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We were talking about rookie quarterbacks and their landing spots. Which rookie quarterback is in the best spot out of the 2024 class? We will talk about that coming up next. Don't forget, you're going to hear from Will Levis at 12:20 today right here on this very radio station. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. This is the absolute worst time of year to be dealing with joint pain. You can't do the outdoor stuff that you love to do, whether that's hiking, jogging, playing on the beach, all kinds of other activities that require physical movement. If you don't want to be bogged down by that nagging joint pain, you need to call QC Kinetics today, and they will get you the help that you need with regenerative medicine protocols that can restore and repair that damaged tissue with no surgery, no steroids, and no drugs. The most important part, no downtime. It's the future of medicine. Tens of thousands of QC Kinetics patients around the country are living their best life this year because they made the call. So call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Revolutionary treatments for joint pain are here. The number 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. Welcome back. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you guys managed the weather okay. I know that here in Davidson County, it was not too bad. We got some wind, some rain. Obviously, I know some people experienced some hail, but for everybody in Wilson County, in Rutherford County that have been dealing, and so many other places in Middle Tennessee that were dealing with extreme storms and tornadoes that touched down yesterday. We canceled the primetime show just because, Bert is in Hermitage, which is northeast Davidson County, and I would hate for Bert to be not paying attention to whatever the hell I'm saying about Tyler Boyd and J.C. Latham as a tornado rolls over his house.
We canceled NSC Backstage because Jackson lives out near Hermitage. Same reason. So hope everybody made it safe.
I'm glad you're safe, buddy. Were you scared?
Very scared. I climbed under the bed like a house cat.
My house cats are braver than you. They're out here trying to sit out there in the storm and just stare up at the sky like Josh Pate storm chasing. By the way, Pate is fresh off of storm chasing. He flies to different locations around the country. He flew to Oklahoma to chase tornadoes. Insanity to me. Anyway, quarterbacks in the best spot in their rookie year. So we have 6, a record-tying 6 that went in the first round. Whether 6 were deserving of first-round draft picks this year or not has been the debate, but still, the 6 quarterbacks who were selected this year on that Thursday night a couple of weeks ago, which of them is in the best landing spot? Because I think my answer to this question is going to shock you, and the only reason that I have any kind of confidence, and by the way, not named Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams we're taking out of this discussion because Caleb Williams has gone into the best possible landing spot that a first overall draft pick at quarterback has ever gone to.
I was going to say, since who? Who was
Mahomes?
No. Number one, though.
And number one overall
Caleb
draft
Williams,
pick.
who is the number one pick that we were saying, oh, yeah, that's a good spot?
Cleveland was not a wreck, like an outright disaster when Baker was drafted. They had some things there. Now, they built it up largely while Baker was there, so it's not nearly what Chicago's roster is right now, what the Browns were at the time, but Baker's circumstance was not hideous, despite, playing for the Browns. Penix is an interesting one because Atlanta is not a bad football team, but he's the most ready to play at the NFL level by most analysts' estimation, and he will have the longest wait of any of them because Kirk Cousins is on a 4-year contract. Though, the interesting component of that is Penix may have to play right away while Kirk Cousins continues to recover from an Achilles tear. That's kind of the wild card in all of this. And it may be why Atlanta did the thing that they did to try and not miss a beat in keeping pace in the NFC South, not taking a couple of unnecessary losses while you work through things without Kirk Cousins or until such time as he's physically ready to go. My answer to this question is going to be Bo Nix. And
best situation.
Best situation of any of them that are walking into. And it's because, for whatever reason, well, mostly smarter football people than me telling me that I'm discounting Sean Payton's impact and ability to bring the best possible version out of Bo Nix of any of the teams that he would have landed with. The Denver Broncos with Sean Payton is the best possible place that Bo Nix could have gone. Now, would you have liked to have seen it in the first round if you're a Broncos fan? Probably not. Ideally, Bo Nix, I think, is a second-round pick. But still, with a coaching staff that's going to maximize his abilities. And he's an interesting one because he's about the same age as Penix, if not older than Michael Penix. So you're looking at quarterbacks at that point and saying, all right, they're probably going to be as close to a finished product as any of the other guys that are coming out in the draft process. But Bo Nix in an offense with Sean Payton and a roster that's not, Denver's roster is not bad. Denver's roster is probably going to be pretty competitive. We think the Raiders are in a better situation than the Broncos. I'd probably argue against that. Even though Gardner Minshew is more NFL experience, obviously. We know more about Gardner Minshew. The Chargers are going to be second to the Chiefs. So at best, the Broncos are competing for third place in the AFC West right out the gate. But I think that his situation is as insulated as any, even understanding that he's probably going to play right out of the gates. I can't imagine a world in which they trot out is it Jarrett Stidham right now in Denver?
Jarrett Stidham.
I would be shocked to see Sean Payton go with Jarrett Stidham in week 1 if he's got a rookie quarterback that he spent the 12th overall pick on.
For me, the answer is easily J.J. McCarthy.
Okay.
Easily. I think the situation with the weapons around him is better in Minnesota than it is in Denver. I think the overall roster is better. The defense is competent. They lose Daniil Hunter, who is a Houston Texan, but they signed Jonathan Grenard, who just had a career year with the Houston Texans as that edge rushing option. I don't know, man. I think J.J. McCarthy slides right in and will start day one and be best set up for success. And to be totally honest, is it crazy to say I'd rather my young quarterback have Kevin O'Connell than Sean Payton right now? I'm sorry.
Is it crazy?
I like the sample size of Kevin O'Connell working with quarterbacks in the last 5-6 years far better than I do with Sean Payton.
I think that you can make the argument. I don't think it's crazy. It's certainly not as crazy as that might have seemed 2 years ago or a year ago, right? When we're talking about Sean Payton being traded for draft assets, first-round picks, and things like that.
You forgot to mention Zach Wilson, by the way, with Denver.
So
that just popped into my head when we're saying Jarrett Stidham. It'll be Zach Wilson that he'll be playing with. And I don't know. I mean, Wilson, Stidham, and Nix, that's the QB room now in Denver.
Somebody's going to end up the odd man out there, and I don't know that it's going to be Jarrett Stidham. Either way, we'll see.
Fair enough.
So I do think Kevin O'Connell's a good coach based on the representative sample size that we have right now. And I think he's going to help the quarterbacks. Are we looking at this just specifically in their rookie season, or as far as the best situation to succeed? Because I'm willing to stick with my Bo Nix pick. I think that Bo Nix is going to make it because Sean Payton is there with him, because he's with Sean Payton. As a player, where we're looking at all of these, cautionary tales. Zach Wilson, a great example. Zach Wilson moved, towards the end of his rookie contract on the precipice of potentially getting paid. Obviously, they're not going to pick up a fifth-year option on a player like that in the future. But of the guys that have the best chance to make it, I still feel pretty good about Bo Nix.
F&M Bank Chat, theoretically, is back on YouTube. It says, Sean Payton has not drafted and developed a quarterback since Tony Romo. Tony Romo, when Sean Payton was the QB coach in Dallas, when Romo came out of Eastern Illinois, he inherited Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where all this stuff comes from with Sean Payton. I know he's a good head coach. I know he's won a Super Bowl, but we've done it. We have stacked up Peyton's resume next to Mike McCarthy's.
They're basically the same.
It's the same picture, right? And Mike McCarthy gets a lot of flack. So
it's his face. It's Mike McCarthy's face. It's how he looks, just kind of befuddled on the sideline from time to time. He's not the most photogenic. I think that works against Mike McCarthy.
Who's the better prospect, you think, coming out, McCarthy or Nix? Like,
that's an interesting question, because McCarthy's probably I would have said that J.J. McCarthy was a worse prospect than Bo Nix. I'm not pretending to be any kind of quarterback expert, because there's plenty of people in the league, although not as many people in the league as, draft pundits would have thought, right, based on where J.J. McCarthy went, that they didn't have to trade up to get him in Minnesota. I'm going to say Bo Nix. I don't think I'm just sticking with that because I feel good about Bo Nix. I didn't see the kind of throws on tape from J.J. McCarthy that I saw Bo Nix make routine. And it's not like he's got the strongest arm. Neither of them have like a Will Levis arm, for example, or anything like that. McCarthy's bigger, right? He's got more stature, size to him, which matters at the
Nick's
NFL
much
level.
older.
Nick's much older, which means that you're probably looking at you are looking at a lower ceiling for Bo Nix than you would J.J. McCarthy. But I didn't love J.J. McCarthy going back and watching him, and I understand that the offense didn't necessarily put him in a situation where he's going to showcase all
That's the beauty of it. The offense doesn't have to revolve around him with the Rams, with the setup that he is in. I'm not saying they're going to be a run-first team with an elite defense like Michigan, but I think he's in a better situation than Bo Nix. What'd I say?
Rams.
Sorry, the Vikings. I think J.J. McCarthy falls into a better situation than Bo Nix. And the thing about J.J. McCarthy is timing, accuracy, and decision-making. And I think he'll fit in perfectly to just be able to manage that offense in year one and use the weapons to his advantage.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. Which rookies, speaking of them, are you most paying attention to in minicamp? Titans open rookie minicamp today. We'll talk about that and take your phone calls next.
It is 11:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans begin rookie minicamp this weekend at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Head coach Brian Callahan will meet with the media today at 11:20. Quarterback Will Levis will have a press conference at 12:20. You can hear both of those live right here on The Zone. In NFL free agency news, the New York Giants have signed wide receiver Allen Robinson. The 30-year-old was released by Pittsburgh this offseason. In transfer portal news, former Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright reportedly is on the move again, transferring from Mississippi State to Northwestern for his final year of eligibility per Pete Thamel. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour underway. You're going to hear from the Titans head coach, Brian Callahan, here in just about 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes from now, as a matter of fact. He'll open up rookie minicamp. There will be players on the field. There will be thirst traps posted on social media of sled drills, quarterbacks throwing. Oh, my God.
Will there be that many sled drills?
Well, a little bit of sled drills. Yeah, they could do sleds without the pads on.
I remember Aziz Al-Shayer coming in here and talking about they don't do this everywhere else. Like, I've never had an off season like this before. Voluntary workouts, just working them with those sleds.
Well, I'm talking about a different kind of sled. I'm talking about the sleds that they do in joint work rather than the individual sled work that they're doing. No, the Mike Vrabel summer conditioning program, I bet it gets you in great shape, but it looks like just unmitigated hell. Just unrelenting suffering. But if you're going to play fast and aggressive, that's how you got to condition, I suppose. Now, how Brian Callahan and the new sports science staff, strength and conditioning staff under Rand Carthon and Callahan, how they handle all these things. I'm sure Callahan's actually going to be asked some questions to that effect. Not necessarily, he can't answer the question about what's different that you guys are going to do that the last staff did, because how is he going to answer that? He's going to look around and say, well, I wasn't here and I don't want to speak on that. The way to ask him the question, I think, is, what are you going to bring to the strength and conditioning program, or what does your staff plan to bring to the strength and conditioning program that you guys found success with in Cincinnati? What's applicable that you guys like, that you didn't like, that you tried? That's probably the best way to get an answer out of him with more specifics than, I'm not going to speak on last.
Yeah, and how does that start to get implemented now with minicamp and voluntary workouts?
Absolutely. And how does it scale up or scale back, depending on how what the science tells you? How applicable is the science? Talk to me like I'm 5, because I don't know anything about sports science, all right? I'd imagine the vast majority of the audience, although Lane, who's sitting on the line, who's a personal trainer, may know some more about sports science than we do. Get to your phone calls here in just a second. For those of us who don't have that kind of education or background or specificity, help us understand more about why it is that the things that you are going to do are going to work. So we'll see what he has to say here in just a second. Rookies that you're paying the most attention to in minicamp, which Titans rookie is it, and why is it T'Vondre Sweat? Because I feel like that's really the biggest answer. Now, obviously, Latham, there are going to be pictures of, hey, here's J.C. Latham lining up at left tackle. And then what? Well, nothing, because he doesn't have pads on. He's not going to hit anybody until training camp. So basically, it's just him going through the motions, basically a fast-paced walkthrough, but he's in shorts and a helmet out there, and they may not even be in helmets yet. They might have helmets, I'm not sure. With Sweat, it's all about how he looks, how he's conditioned. I think people are probably going to over-scrutinize what he says, because, it's an easy quote to latch onto. If I get down to 355, I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. That's the headline right away. So he's clearly, and you have a little, you're probably over talking on draft night because you're excited. You got an opportunity. It could be life-changing. It's the best that this is ever going to feel outside of winning the Super Bowl, right? The night you get drafted, and none of the 4 of us in the room or in the 2 rooms have ever played professional football. Unless
second contract's probably a pretty good day.
Pretty good day. Pretty good day.
Putting pen to paper on that big second contract.
But it's never going to feel better because your body has been through all the things that it took to get to that second contract. And that's, ask Jeff, it seems like a pretty unpleasant experience if you're just trying to get towards the money at the end.
But yeah, like workout portion, this point in the offseason, it's got to be T'Vondre Sweat.
It has to be T'Vondre Sweat. Now, the big fella was asked about his weight, and there's a couple of big fellas this year, but this big fella in particular was asked about his weight specifically on his draft night Zoom with us, and this is what T'Vondre Sweat, the nose tackle out of Texas, had to say.
What are you weighing these days?
366.
Is that a weight you feel comfortable playing at, or do you feel like you need to go up or down?
I'm going to go down more. I mean, I can play good at 366. My coach always told me, Coach Bo, this past season, he was like, yeah, you played great, but you could have played better if you were 355 or 350. So I'm just going to try to chop it down day by day, get to that. And, I mean, if I go to 355, 350, I'm most likely I'm going to be a Hall of Famer.
What did the Titans tell you about where they'd like you to be?
Around there. So we're going to get there. We're going to do that.
We're going to get there. We're going to do that. If I get to 355, I'm a Hall of Famer. That's only 11 pounds. Now, 11 pounds, not a small amount, but it should be doable.
Did you see the videos coming out from he was working out like the day after the draft? All these social media videos come out of him working out with other draft prospects that got drafted out of Texas, and he's talking into the camera like he knows the situation, right? Whether it gets executed, that's what still remains to be seen. But T'Vondre Sweat knows what he needs to do.
Coming up next, you're going to hear from head coach Brian Callahan. I'm sure he'll be asked about questions about Sweat. He'll be asked about Tyler Boyd, whether he's able to answer those Tyler Boyd questions yet or not. You'll just have to stick around and find out. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Thinking about lunch? Thinking about hot chicken. Any one of their Middle Tennessee locations. And if you're smart, and if you're in the Franklin area, or even if you're just thinking about Hattie B's for breakfast, you go to the factory at Franklin. You can get their breakfast menu exclusively at that location for Hattie B's. Brian Callahan is going to speak to the media here in just about 3 minutes from now. We'll carry that press conference live for you. Jackson will signal that. And then I'm going to be in attendance for the Will Levis press conference. Lucas and Jackson are going to guide you in and out of those press conferences because he's going to speak after the practice today. There is going to be, or rather,
I don't think they're practicing today.
Well, they're doing stuff today. I think it's just the rookies. I don't think that Will Levis is involved with, I don't think Levis is out there being the camp arm. I am curious to know who they've got in there as camp arms, though, because we still haven't got a confirmed list of UDFAs, have we, from the team?
No, we haven't. Now, the official dates for rookie minicamp are the 10th through the 12th, right?
Yeah, this coming weekend.
Right. So I figured the first practice was tomorrow.
They're not doing
noted in the media.
I shouldn't have said practice. It's there's a difference between what is considered a practice, what's considered a workout, their strength and conditioning stuff, the meetings, whatever. So they're doing stuff today. Callahan and Levis are speaking at the opening of it. A rookie minicamp practice featuring almost exclusively rookies. There'll probably be, UDFA guys from last year, quarterbacks that are trying to get around who will be available to the team tomorrow. And we'll speak to the rookie class and the assistant coaches as well.
How quickly are you going to try and flock to Bill Callahan?
I am probably just going to keep an eye out. I'm probably not going to pay attention to anything that anybody else says tomorrow because I've already talked to the rookies. Not that they're not important, and I'm not curious to hear about how the last week of their lives has gone, but I'm most interested to get pole position at Bill Callahan and ask him all of my questions. And I'm just curious to know how he's going to answer them. There is a lot of football coaches that aren't interested in explaining football to you because it's not their job. Vrabel was one of those people. It's not worth my time to explain football to you. It doesn't really benefit me. It doesn't help me win football games to help you have a greater understanding of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And that's fine. There are coaches who are happy to educate you to an extent, right? They're not going to give you scheme and specific matchups and deployment. But I personally feel like I benefited so much from having Dick LeBeau at the start of my career and then Dean Pease as people that I covered. Just old heads who have a wealth of knowledge to share and are not going to guard all of the stuff like it's state secrets, who are willing to share some component of the coaching, the teaching elements of it. And I'm hoping Bill Callahan's the latter. Because to hear Brad Hopkins talk about it, and Brad had him as a Pro Bowl coach, so it's a little different, but they're playing actual football at the time during the Pro Bowl. And the way that it's been explained from Lloyd Cushenberry, right? The biggest reason that he signed here was Bill Callahan, by his own admission. I'm sure the money didn't hurt. J.C. Latham, one of the first things that he brought up was a 2-hour meeting with Bill Callahan. I'm not trying to get all of the information. I just want to learn more about what it is that you do and why it's different, or why you think you have better success than a lot of people out there. What gives you that greater degree of depth or understanding of this specific position group?
I go back to the quote from Joe Alt that Teron Davenport had of ESPN after Alt's meeting with Bill Callahan, during the Combine, where he just said, everything is black and white. Like, you walk out of a discussion with Bill Callahan, there is no gray area. So I think that translates in what I've heard from Bill Callahan and media availability with the Browns last year. And he's been a head coach, right? He's so used to this stuff. He's been in the league for so many years. But I hope that translates in terms of us getting to hear from him on a regular basis, that black and white, no gray area to media when he's explaining the transition that Latham's about to go through, which is going to be 1A and 1B and 1C, right, on questions for Bill Callahan. I mean, there's a lot to get into. The leap for Peter Skoronski, how beneficial Cushenberry can be to the rest of the young linemen, Nicholas Petit-Frere. But J.C. Latham obviously will be top of that list.
615-737-1045. We'll hear from Brian Callahan here in just a second. Lane is a personal trainer up next.
Hey, Bart, how are you?
Good.
Not doing bad either. Well, you brought up all the strength conditioning stuff, too. That raises some interesting points. I don't want to take too long, but I was just going to say Michael Penix earlier was my rookie choice as being the best position, and then might call back and ask about Mason Rudolph another day because I'm pretty excited to have him.
Well, why don't you just ask now?
I could. I think he's a great number 2 to Levis. In fact, I think he's somewhat of a gray man, and that's who you're supposed to kind of fear in that respect, is the unexpected guy. And I watched him do that in Pittsburgh as a Steelers and Titans fan for years. And now that he's, backing up Levis, coming off of a pretty high finish there with Pittsburgh, I just think he's in position A as far as that's concerned. But, yeah.
Okay. Aren't you glad you don't have to call back and do that? Thank you for the call, Lane. We appreciate it.
Call back anytime, Lane.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying don't call back. It's just, you have me here. Why not ask me now?
People seem to be so split on if this situation is good for Penix or not. Like, there are people in the side of Lane that say, oh, this is fantastic. Like, yeah, sucks for Kirk Cousins, sucks for Falcons fans who would have loved an edge rusher or whatever, but he gets to sit behind Kirk. He has a runway. And then there's others that say, oh, so he's going to be what, 26, 27 by the time he actually gets an opportunity?
Well, and he's the one that needed the least amount of runway.
Exactly.
And
it's always good for young quarterbacks to have that, but he is the oldest young quarterback to come out of this draft.
Again, I think he's going to play at the start of the year. I don't expect Kirk Cousins to be their week 1 starting quarterback coming off a midseason Achilles tear.
The Falcons have been putting out videos of Kirk throwing it around.
No, I know, but I saw videos of Aaron Rodgers all last year, all for him to be shut down because it's an Achilles tear. You know, it's not an ACL, it's not a high ankle sprain. It's a little different, especially at that age. So I think that in particular. So just to bring it back to Titans, since we're getting ready to hear from the head coach, and we really haven't talked to Callahan much about Mason Rudolph, just a little bit. We haven't talked to Mason Rudolph yet, which would be interesting. And for what it's worth, I did ask for players to be on the show this week. What I was told, and it's completely understandable, there's only a select few of them that are going to do press conferences, and they're probably not going to do radio interviews with any of them, vets or rookies, until maybe next week, probably OTAs. So just kind of to expect more from players, and we'll do some more in-person interviews like we did with Snead and Ridley, which you guys seem to really get a lot out of, so that's good. Mason Rudolph, though, viability as a backup quarterback. We did not really talk about him in the initial signing because you, I think, were more pro-Flacco. Not pro-Flacco, Joe Flacco, but pro-Flacco. And my position was, I think the best possible signing would have been Gardner Minshew, but you saw the money that he got. And with Mason Rudolph already being the highest paid quarterback on the roster, like Gardner Minshew next to Levis and Willis would be making starting caliber money. I think that there's a lot to like about Mason Rudolph's situation, though the caller made it sound a little bit like that might put Levis's job in jeopardy if something doesn't go initially to plan. Did you get that out of the call? Because
not really.
He seemed to say, and I don't know how you get to be the rare combination of Steelers and Titans fans, 2 AFC teams, but he was saying as a Steelers and Titans fan that he watched Mason Rudolph, that he liked the signing, and that might not necessarily be the best thing for Will Levis if there's any kind of unforeseen struggle.
I like the idea of Flacco just because a veteran quarterback that did it at a high level last season, and if Brian Callahan's expertise is putting quarterbacks in the right situations based on their strengths and communicating well what he needs from those quarterbacks, that would work really well with a player that is as much a veteran with as much experience as Joe Flacco. But Mason Rudolph at this point is one of the more experienced backups in the NFL, right? What backup quarterback is more experienced off the top of your head than Mason Rudolph? Flacco, obviously. Probably Minshew. You think Minshew's played in more games than Mason Rudolph?
They're probably pretty even, honestly. They're probably closer to even than you might imagine. I'd give Minshew the edge because he was a full-time starter. Mason,
he was in Jacksonville. He basically was last season.
Yeah, so Minshew's going to have more starts to his name. He'll probably have considerably more starts. I forgot about basically being the starter in Jacksonville the entire year. So, Tannehill, but he's already here, so you take him off the table.
Yeah, and he's not anywhere right now.
No, he's not anywhere. But just based on guys that went to different landing spots, you probably couldn't find.
Minshew has appeared in 49 games. Rudolph, only 21. I would have thought more. personally?
Well, because I think we're associating some level of unhealthiness to Roethlisberger that just didn't really ever happen. Like, he wasn't a good player by the end of it. He looked like kind of a trash bag full of broken glass kind of by the end of it.
And it wasn't always Rudolph, right? Who was the Duck? Who they called him Duck?
Oh, Duck Hodges.
Duck Hodges. Ramon played with Duck.
Devlin Hodges.
Wonder what he's up to nowadays.
I think old Duck's still floating around somewhere.
Rudolph played in 10 games his rookie year in 2019. He played in 5 in 2020, in 2 in 2021, didn't take a snap in 2022, and played in 4 last season. And he's played in, 21 career games.
So
regular season.
We will hear from Brian Callahan here in just a second. He's expected at the podium. Well, he's expected at the podium about 7 minutes ago, so I'm not sure what the holdup is, but nobody's live tweeting anything, so I assume that the press conference is slightly delayed. We'll keep you updated with the latest. Will Levis is scheduled to speak at 12:20 today, and we will make sure that you have that as well. What's the most important question that you have for Brian Callahan? Because there will be more questions for Levis. I think we have more pressing questions for Will Levis. But beyond Boyd, which you think it could be delayed because they're trying to get the Boyd thing out there? Like, you think we're going to get a Jim Wyatt tweet and then all of a sudden Callahan's going to trot to the podium? Because that's the only reason that I could foresee or maybe, think about. But he's going to get questions about Boyd that he's not going to be able to answer. He's going to get multiple questions about Boyd that he's not going to be able to answer.
And a lot of questions about Burks, I imagine.
Well, that's an interesting kind of tightrope to walk if you don't have Tyler Boyd signed yet, but you're still going to get questions about Treylon Burks.
We've talked more about Treylon Burks than Tyler Boyd.
Well, he matters more.
Since the Boyd signing. Like, the second that news broke from Jeremy Fowler, we launched into a whole discussion about Treylon Burks.
Well, he matters more. Wouldn't you agree?
Does he matter more? Is he going to do more for the Titans this season?
Those are two different.
Why does he matter more then?
He matters more because you have first-round pick investment in him. You have him under contract for the foreseeable future. And as we've articulated to start the show, 2 of your 3 starting wide receivers are on 1-year deals.
You have him under contract for what, 2 more seasons?
This season and next.
So 1 more season than you reportedly have Tyler Boyd under contract for.
Yes. But you still have the 5th-year option at your disposal because he has a first-round pick. Now,
yeah, that's true.
The 5th-year option on wide receivers is pretty pricey. So, like, you got to know this year or you got to eject, basically. But he's more important because he still, God help me, has future viability that right now, based on their contract length, Hopkins and Boyd do not. So there's very much a place for Treylon Burks in the Titans' future. It's just a matter of whether he takes advantage of it or not. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Because I think Boyd is more important this year.
He is much more important this year.
For sure, much more important this year. But Treylon Burks, on aggregate, is the more important asset.
The F&M Bank chat is just rattling off backup quarterbacks that have more experience than Mason Rudolph. Sam Darnold, Marcus Mariota.
Jake Brisket.
Jake Brisket. And then, of course, if Tannehill, Case Keenum is another one. At this point, surely Dobbs doesn't have more experience? I would have guessed.
Dobbs made his first start in 2022.
I would have
in week 15.
You're right, but I would have guessed Mason Rudolph would have played. Like, what would you have guessed? Knowing that he's played in 21 career, I would have said at least 30. To me, he's just always
appeared in 30 games?
Yeah, he's just always been a constant in Pittsburgh.
No, I mean, I probably would have gone more than 21.
Hey, Dobbs has appeared in exactly as many. 21.
Appeared in, though.
Appeared in 21 games.
What's the disparity in starts, though? Because Dobbs had appeared in games in Pittsburgh.
No, Dobbs was always behind Rudolph in Pittsburgh.
No, but he had appeared in games. Not that because he was not always behind Rudolph in Pittsburgh. Wasn't there a year? Anyway, we don't have to get bogged down. Point being, somebody said Brock Osweiler. He's doing TV. Stop it. I don't want to watch Brock Osweiler play football anymore. With that being said, but I do think, to your point, because you and I talked about this morning, and you said to me in our pre-show call, I have Burks fatigue. And I completely understand that. I have left tackle fatigue. Trust and know that I have left tackle fatigue. But you are always quick to remind me that we don't do this show for me and what I'm interested in. Fans are vastly more interested in, because the conversation was about Boyd for a period of time, but then it immediately became about Burks for the fans. Fans have more in Burks, which is why, you see people start to line up on the phone lines that way. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. William is a business owner up next. And in fact, I'm sorry, William, I hate to do that to you in real time because Brian Callahan is at the podium. Let's hear from the coach.
Off-season.
He's been great. Really, really happy with the work that he's put in. What he's learned. There's a lot of information coming at him. A lot of technical things, a lot of mental things, a lot of physical things as far as fundamentals, techniques, how we teach, what we teach. He's attacked it with really awesome enthusiasm. Every day he comes in, he learns it, and always the mark to me of guys that take coaching well, they can take it from the meeting room to the grass. And so he's been able to translate those things as we've come out here. So really happy with the work he's done so far. I think he's really gotten better in a short amount of time because of the way he approaches his job, and that's all you can ask for at this point in the year.
How much does it help him, too, that he has going to have veteran receivers around him that know the nuances, the tricks of the trade in terms of route running and concepts and things like that?
It helps a ton. They've got great knowledge and experience, productive players in the league. They've done it, and that helps when you got a young quarterback that's starting as a full-time starter for his first time. And having veteran presence, veteran perspective, veteran opinions will help his development. I believe that, and really, really excited about that group right now and where we're at, really from top to bottom, because the guys that have been here too, with Nick and Traylon, those guys have had a pretty good start. So good depth in that room, good competition.
How does Tyler impact that group, and how much he's played like 80% in the slot in Cincinnati? How much is he a slot guy for you?
Yeah, since it's not official yet, hasn't signed the papers in general, just to put that out there to start. That'll be official sooner than later, but not quite yet. But Tyler is a slot receiver. That's what he does. That's where he's made his money. That's where his production has come from. He's a fantastic slot receiver on top of it. Most importantly, I think he's a awesome addition to the locker room. He's a great human being, great worker, and everything about him is what we want to be about. And so to add him is really is an impactful add for us, and excited about it. As far as Traylon's role, he's going to play everything. We've told him that from the beginning. He's going to play inside. He's going to play outside, and he's going to carve out a role for himself. And I had him come up today and do the break after practice because his work that he's put in has been really impressive. Just to give you guys some context, Tuesdays are our harder days of our 4-day work week. It's a really heavy day, and so the load on the players is high. And what I mean by that is both acceleration, max speeds, and yardage. And so Traylon, I think, ran 3,591 yards on Tuesday, and then hit our top speed and team-leading top speed at 22.6 miles an hour in practice. So super impressive workload and performance. And so he's had a really good offseason. I'm excited about what he can bring for us. I meant when I said that the other day that I think he's going to have a role to play.
How valuable is this to see him healthy? I know he's had a lot of knickknacks and different injuries. How different is it to see him healthy?
It's always valuable when the guys are healthy. They get a chance to really lean into the work. They can really improve. It's hard sometimes when you're injured to learn and then not be able to do. And so being healthy allows you to take all the things that we talk about and be able to go on the grass and execute it. So that part's a huge advantage. So guys, when you get an off season where you're healthy, you can really make strides and really improve. And I think we'll see that.
What did you say to him about bringing in Tyler, and just kind of how is his reaction to maybe getting a diminished role or having to compete a little bit more?
I wouldn't say there's a diminished role of any sort. We've made very clear to Traylon that the signing of Tyler is not about him. It's about helping our team get better, adding better players to our team, making us a competitive football team. And what he's done and how he's worked has been great. And I'm anticipating him still being able to play a good role for us. And look, you got to have guys that can step in and play. You got to have guys that play roles. And that hasn't changed. It doesn't change anything for Treylon as far as what we're expecting from him and what I'm hopeful that he's able to bring to the offense. So we communicated that to him and made sure he was aware. And it's not about him. It's about making our team better, making our receiving core more competitive, adding more depth to our team in general.
So much made about all the guys you brought in to make Levis better. How do you approach making it clear to Levis that he conversely has to make those guys better?
I don't have to say much to Will about that. He's usually pretty dialed in to getting better every day, and I think he's excited. I think he's excited about what's around him, the players that are on our team, the players that we've added. I think he's optimistic about how he can perform and the jump that he can make from his first year to his second year, which you see a lot with players in the league. He got a little taste of action last year, played some, did some good things, did some things he needs to improve on, but ultimately had enough experience to draw back on it and really make the jump and the improvements in the areas that he needs to as a full-time starting quarterback. And so he should be very excited, but he's also doing the requisite work that's required of him to do his part, and that's been fun to see.
Does the addition of Boyd kind of give you more certainty about maybe playing the type of offense that you were kind of leading in Cincinnati as well?
Certainly there's parallels, obviously bringing Tyler in and having the receivers we have now, it's a style of offense I'm very comfortable with, one that I've seen work a couple different places now, so that does matter. But still, at the end of the day, this is the Titans, and this is our offense that we're going to build here. We have different players here, even though Tyler is one that is a carryover player from a past experience. So we're still finding out what our guys are going to do well. We're made up differently. We have different talents, and so every day that we come out here, particularly when we get to training camp, we'll get a better feel for who and what we are at all the positions and how we're going to use them.
So in this phase of the offseason, Kelly, since this is your first time kind of running the show, like what exactly are you looking for from everyone? What constitutes, I guess, a good day?
The work. There's a lot of work from now until we kick off, and this is just a portion of that work. And so every day that we come out here and we don't make the same mistake twice is really one of the biggest things I tell guys, because a lot of this is new. And so if you make a mistake, correct it and don't make it again. And you stack days like that together, you end up being a pretty good football team usually. And so that's the message. And it's taking everything new, learning it, executing it. If we make a mistake, let's fix it. Let's understand why and not make it again. And that's how, at this point in the year, without any real competition, that's really sort of how do you judge good and bad days. And the other part is just the work, just the way that this team works. I love what these guys are about. I love the way they come to work every day. I love that the intensity that they come practice with in April and May. It's pretty fantastic. So really proud of what they've done so far.
Can you extend that to offensive linemen, where it's even harder maybe to linemen in general to read without pads?
Yeah.
How much can you see day-to-day, week-to-week improvement? How much can Phil and how much the technical stuff that you're working on now, how much can you see it working when you can't see the padded results?
Yeah, good question. You can see a lot, the fundamental part of it. Those guys grind, man. They work. You watch that group in practice, and you guys will see at some point when you get out here. Those guys work, and they work hard. The fundamental part is all really we're focused on. So yeah, I see changes in stances. I see changes in technique and fundamental parts of how they're hitting sleds, where their hand placement is. I see that improving every day, and that's exciting for me to watch that. You feel that improvement. Again, we're in shorts. There's no helmets on, and we're not competing for yards here. There's no down and distance. There's no scoreboard, so you don't really get a chance to know that part of it. But as far as the fundamentals and what I've seen in improvement, really from when we've started to now, has been pretty impressive. I'm really happy with where those guys are at and how they're working and the improvements they've made fundamentally.
To accomplish, I guess, when rookie camp starts, I guess when they come in tonight, and maybe what will your first message be to those guys?
It'll be very similar to the first message that I gave the veterans when they came in. But the rookie camp in general is more of an orientation. We want to get guys moving around. These guys aren't in shape the way that they're usually going to be. They haven't probably been in a football setting since their seasons have ended. So we're real mindful about what we ask of them in this setting. We're not going to do a ton of competition against each other. They're just not ready for that. But it's an indoctrination to our team, to our culture, to our building, what the day-to-day will look like. That's what this is. This is the starting point for them of getting settled into their pro careers. And a lot of it's going to be, how do you become a pro? What is a pro? And there's a lot of education that goes into that, and this is just the beginning of it for him.
The right tackle position, you guys didn't add right tackle. What was it that you saw in the tape of Nick and Jalen that made you feel comfortable about not adding another tackle with Jason?
Yeah, I see young players that are ascending. I see young players that had a lot of room for improvement from last year. But I see guys that have traits and talent to be able to make a jump and make a transition and play good football. We're going to find our best 5, however that looks, come September. But those 2 guys for sure have the ability and have the physical talent and traits to be able to be starting right tackles or tackles in this league. It was good to see them play some, because when you get to see guys play, you get to know where their weaknesses are and how to correct them. And I think that part has been fun to see those guys get better every day fundamentally. Again, we'll put the pads on come July and we'll let it rip and let those guys compete. But I think their competition, what they've done so far in their young careers, and then the ability to get better from now until we play, gives me some excitement that they got a chance to be good young ascending players for us.
Is there an insurance policy or an insurance option if you put the pads on and they're not in training camp where you want them to be?
There's always options. Sometimes there are options that are outside of your building are better than others. But there's also a whole nother set of acquisition period that comes at the end of training camp. There's trades that occur, there's cuts that occur. There's still potential to add at the position if you feel like you need to. Again, maybe not be the options that you would want. There may not be one that's available that's worth it. But there's always avenues to improve still before the season starts if you feel like you need a spot somewhere on the roster.
When it comes to that safety position and just the competition you have now, what's the possibility of still adding someone, and what type of player, if you do add, are you looking for?
Yeah, there's definitely room to add. And those conversations are ongoing. There's still players out there where the free agency isn't over, and there's still conversations with agents, conversations with players. That stuff continues. So we're looking to add an edge down there. We need guys that can play with some physicality, that they look and sound like Denard, as you guys listen to Denard. That's what we're looking for. We need – there's an area for a veteran presence there. We're still exploring those options. And that'll hopefully get resolved sometime sooner than later.
Obviously, telemark players with Burrow to Will. How much do you borrow from that experience and how well things went in Cincinnati?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that's part of who I am. That those experiences have formed a lot of my philosophies. They confirmed a lot of things that I had felt prior in Denver and Detroit, and when I was in Oakland, and then seeing that happen with a young player like Joe. Ascend and get better every year and really play at a high level. Those are impactful. They mean something. They matter. I use a lot of the things that I've learned there here now, but Will's not Joe, and that's okay. We can still be a really good football team, and Will can be a really good quarterback. He doesn't have to be Joe Burrow. He just needs to be Will Levis. And but there's a lot of things that I take from our experiences there that kind of make me who I am, and my core philosophy of offensive football is a huge part of that. So there's a lot to take from those experiences, absolutely.
With a quarterback like Will that plays like on edge, like how do you go about gauging, hey, look, the journey is over. You got to understand that. Mm-hmm. How do you go about gauging that, and when does that process start? You
never want to coach away somebody's edge, and he's got that. And he plays a very competitive, tough, and physical brand of football at the quarterback position, which I appreciate. And there's a lot of ways quarterbacks can show their toughness. The one that I prefer not to see a lot of is lowering shoulders and jumping over defenders and all that. There's a place, we got to win a game, and he's shown that he's willing to put his body on the line to win a game, which is appreciated. Guys respect that in the locker room. But he also has to know that he shoulders a lot of the franchise and his ability to stay healthy and play for 16, 17, 22 games is an important part of it. So there's a balance. Again, I don't want to coach his edge out, but there's a balance of knowing what your health means to the team and the organization, and when and where to show that toughness. And so that's a maturity thing. Guys learn how to do that. You take one or two good hits, you learn real quick that you probably don't want to take a lot of them. And so I think he's well aware of that, and those are things that we we work on and talk about over the course of the offseason program.
To a veteran edge would be good. Is safety still in play there as well?
No, absolutely. You know, we're still looking to add players. I'm excited to see what this group of young players looks like. We got a handful of UDFAs and some tryout guys too. But there's always room to add veteran players, and you know, like I said, that process is still ongoing. We're still exploring all those options that are out there.
Great, thanks. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back. Titans head coach Brian Callahan just finished meeting with the media at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park to kick off rookie minicamp. Quarterback Will Levis will speak at 12:20. Assistant coaches will meet with media in between. So some side scrums with Bill Callahan. You imagine Tracy Rocker, all the assistants that we will play for you. Anything of note to come out of it. A couple of notes from Brian Callahan's presser. We left off right before he was asked about the best five on the offensive line. Of course, being asked about J.C. Latham, Nicholas Petit-Frere, another insurance options at the tackle spots if they get to training camp with the pads on and realize that it is not a sustainable situation. So a lot there from Brian Callahan that he said during the break. So we'll pick up where we left off. This is the Titans head coach.
Nick and Jalen that made you feel comfortable about not adding another tackle to?
Yeah, I see young players that are ascending. I see young players that had a lot of room for improvement from last year. But I see guys that have traits and talent to be able to make a jump and make a transition and play good football. We're going to find our best five, however that looks, come September. But those two guys for sure have the ability and have the physical talent and traits to be able to be starting right tackles or tackles in this league. It was good to see them play some, because when you get to see guys play, you get to know where their weaknesses are and how to correct them. And I think that part has been fun to see those guys get better every day fundamentally. Again, we'll put the pads on come July and we'll let it rip and let those guys compete. But I think their competition, what they've done so far in their young careers, and then the ability to get better from now until we play, gives me some excitement that they got a chance to be good young ascending players for us.
Is there an insurance policy or insurance option if you put the pads on and they're not in training camp where you want them to be?
There's always options. Sometimes there are options that are outside of your building are better than others. But there's also a whole nother set of acquisition period that comes at the end of training camp. There's trades that occur, there's cuts that occur. There's still potential to add at the position if you feel like you need to. Again, maybe not be the options that you would want. There may not be one that's available that's worth it. But there's always avenues to improve still before the season starts if you feel like you need a spot somewhere on the roster.
Brian, when it comes to that safety position and just the competition you have now, what's a possibility of still adding someone, and what type of player, if you do add, are you looking for?
Yeah, there's definitely room to add. And those conversations are ongoing. You know, there's still players out there where the free agency isn't over, and there's still conversations with agents, conversations with players. That stuff continues. So we're looking to add an edge down there. We need guys that can play with some physicality, that want to they look and sound like Denard, as you guys listen to Denard. That's what we're looking for. We need, there's an area for a veteran presence there. We're still exploring those options, and that'll hopefully get resolved sometime sooner than later.
Obviously, couple more players with Burrow to Will. How much do you borrow from that experience and how well things went in Cincinnati with that?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that's part of who I am. That those experiences have formed a lot of my philosophies. They confirmed a lot of things that I had felt prior in Denver and Detroit, and when I was in Oakland, and then seeing that happen with a young player like Joe. Ascend and get better every year and really play at a high level. Those are impactful. They mean something. They matter. I use a lot of the things that I've learned there here now, but I don't. Will's not Joe, and that's okay. We can still be a really good football team, and Will can be a really good quarterback. He doesn't have to be Joe Burrow. He just needs to be Will Levis. And but there's a lot of things that I take from our experiences there that kind of make me who I am, and my core philosophy of offensive football is a huge part of that. So there's a lot to take from those experiences, absolutely.
With a quarterback like Will that plays like on edge, like how do you go about gauging, hey, look, the journey's over, you got to understand that. Mm-hmm. How do you go about gauging that, and when does that process start?
You never want to coach away somebody's edge, and he's got that. And he plays a very competitive, tough, and physical brand of football at the quarterback position, which I appreciate. And there's a lot of ways quarterbacks can show their toughness. The one that I prefer not to see a lot of is lowering shoulders and jumping over defenders and all that. There's a place, we got to win a game, and he's shown that he's willing to put his body on the line to win a game, which is appreciated. Guys respect that in the locker room. But he also has to know that he shoulders a lot of the franchise and his ability to stay healthy and play for 16, 17, 22 games is an important part of it. So there's a balance. Again, I don't want to coach his edge out, but there's a balance of knowing what your health means to the team and the organization, and when and where to show that toughness. And so that's a maturity thing. Guys learn how to do that. You take one or two good hits, you learn real quick that you probably don't want to take a lot of them. And so I think he's well aware of that, and those are things that we work on and talk about over the course of the off-season program.
Looking to a veteran edge would be good. Safety still in play there as well?
No, absolutely. We're still looking to add players. I'm excited to see what this group of young players looks like. We got a handful of UDFAs and some tryout guys too, but there's always room to add veteran players. And like I said, that process is still ongoing. We're still exploring all those options that are out there.
Great, thanks. Appreciate you. Thanks.
All right, that is Titans head coach Brian Callahan. So a lot of stuff there talking about Will Levis, about Treylon Burks now and his role with the reported signing of Tyler Boyd. A little bit surprised Brian Callahan alluded to Boyd and his strengths and a few things about his fit without that being official, at least from the team, that Boyd is signing a one-year deal with the Titans. Was reported yesterday by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, 1 year up to $4.5 million. But as we await Will Levis, Titans assistant coaches are meeting with the media. Tracy Rocker. We'll see if Bill Callahan is out there and if we can get you anything from him. But in the meantime, the most important thing that Brian Callahan had to say today in his press conference to kick off the offseason program. We'll do that next right here on 104.5 The Zone. It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans begin rookie minicamp this weekend at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Head coach Brian Callahan, quarterback Will Levis with press conferences today. In other NFL free agency news, the New York Giants have signed wide receiver Allen Robinson. The 30-year-old was released by the Steelers this offseason. In transfer portal news, former Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright reportedly on the move, transferring from Mississippi State to Northwestern for his final year of eligibility per Pete Thamel. Tonight in the NHL, the President's Trophy winning Rangers look to take a 3-0 series lead over the Hurricanes at 6, and the Avalanche and Stars drop the puck in Dallas at 8:30. Avalanche lead 1-0. In the NBA, the Cavs at the Celtics for Game 2 at 6. Celtics lead 1-0, and the Mavericks try to even the series with the Thunder in Oklahoma City, Game 2 at 8:30. Also, Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets star, officially winning MVP for the third time in his career. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Hour number 3 on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica with you. Buck is off to the facility as assistant coaches are meeting with the media now. Quarterback Will Levis is scheduled to speak at 12:20. We will carry that for you right here on 104.5 The Zone. There are already some quotes coming out from offensive line coach Bill Callahan, meeting with Titans media for the first time since he was hired by his son, Brian, who just spoke with the media. So we will get some audio from Bill Callahan as he is currently having those conversations. But if you missed any of Brian Callahan's press conference, we teased the most important thing that Brian Callahan had to say, or things, plural, because he touched on a lot. Will Levis, obviously, is going to be topic one. Treylon Burks' role in the offense with the reported Tyler Boyd signing by the Titans. And, of course, remaining roster holes, especially at safety, which he talked about a little bit. But first things first, Will Levis was the first question off the board as expected. This was Brian Callahan opening up the offseason program, talking about his second-year quarterback.
He's been great. Really, really happy with the work that he's put in, what he's learned. There's a lot of information coming at him, a lot of technical things, a lot of mental things, a lot of physical things as far as fundamentals, techniques, how we teach, what we teach. He's attacked it with really awesome enthusiasm. Every day he comes in, he learns it, and always the mark to me of guys that take coaching well, they can take it from the meeting room to the grass. And so he's been able to translate those things as we've come out here. So really happy with the work he's done so far. I think he's really gotten better in a short amount of time because of the way he approaches his job, and that's all you can ask for at this point in the year.
How much does it?
So that's Brian Callahan talking about Will Levis at this point in the offseason. And Nick Colts talked about it a little bit as well, meeting with the media earlier in the offseason about the two-way street, the feedback that's been established between Will, teammates, coaches. And I wonder what it must be like for Will Levis, Jackson, to run out onto the practice field for the first time with this team, in the limited work that they're going to be doing with off-season workouts. And I don't know who's going to be there for voluntary stuff, but what must it be like that first time for Will to walk out and look around at what's in front of him with a mammoth of a human being in J.C. Latham at left tackle, and then surrounded by DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. Tyler Boyd isn't even made official yet by the team, so I don't know that Tyler Boyd's going to be out there for any portion of the offseason stuff in May and June. We'll see, but I don't know. That's got to be a good feeling for Will Levis after what he's done for the last, or had to deal with for the last year in terms of what has surrounded him.
A lot of introductions for second-year quarterback Will Levis. Feel like he spent a lot of time during this time probably shaking hands.
Shaking hands in the huddle.
Nice to meet you. I'm your new quarterback. Reportedly 2 new receivers, a new running back, a bunch of new offensive linemen. I feel like he's just introducing himself a lot. I'm sure he's getting a little bit tired of it, but he's very appreciative of the difference between year 1 and year 2 this year.
Blake on the F&M Bank chat says, this is a GM and head coach doing everything they can to set Levis up for success. I'm excited for this season. And that's the biggest thing, right? The Titans are not making moves in order to see what they've got in Will Levis, right? The Titans are making moves in order to win games, and Levis is a big part of that. But a byproduct of that is us, by the end of the season, barring injury, is that we should have a very good idea of what Will Levis is in this system, with these weapons around him, and as an NFL quarterback. It's not going to be a bunch of question marks at the end. The only scenario in which there's a bunch of question marks at the end of year 2 of Will Levis, the way there were around Daniel Jones, around Justin Fields, so many quarterbacks, right, that get put into a bad situation, the way it's probably going to be in Carolina at the end of the season, right? What are the odds that we get to the end of the 2024 season and we feel like we have a better idea of what Bryce Young is as a quarterback? Situations around him is not that much better.
No, he's still got the ghost of Adam Thielen running routes out there. I mean, obviously, they drafted Leggett, right? Out of South Carolina.
Xavier Leggett. They traded into the first round. They didn't have a first-round pick because of the trade that they got to acquire Bryce Young. The Bears had, obviously, the number 1 pick. So they traded back late in the first round to get Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina.
And then they signed Robert Hunt to a big deal, the guard that played for the Dolphins. They've made some, I don't want to call them minor because it was a first-round pick wide receiver and one of the top-paid guard in the NFL, but I don't think it was enough.
Yeah. First-year head coach in year 2 for Bryce Young, just like it's a first-year head coach in year 2 for Will Levis, but Levis unquestionably in a better situation in terms of the roster around him. So that seems to be a very positive byproduct of all the moves the Titans have made, is that one way or another, you feel good about the opportunity to know something more about Will Levis at the end of his second season, which has not always been the case for young quarterbacks that begin their NFL careers in tough situations like we're watching with Bryce Young right now in Carolina. So, speaking of that situation, I don't know that a singular wide receiver room made more strides from 2023 to 2024 than the Titans. We've talked about them having the most improved roster in the AFC South. That doesn't mean the best. It just means from where they went from point A to point B, the most improved roster in the division. That, without a doubt, carries over to the wide receiver core. But what is Treylon Burks' role in that wide receiver core with the acquisition, reportedly, of Tyler Boyd? It's been a very common question and discussion for us. Brian Callahan was asked that question earlier today.
Yeah, since it's not official yet, hasn't signed the papers in general, just to put that out there to start. That'll be official sooner than later, but not quite yet. But Tyler is a slot receiver. That's what he does. That's where he's made his money. That's where his production has come from. He's a fantastic slot receiver on top of it. Most importantly, I think he's a awesome addition to the locker room. He's a great human being, great worker, and everything about him is what we want to be about. And so to add him is really is an impactful add for us, and excited about it. As far as Treylon's role, he's going to play everything. We've told him that from the beginning. He's going to play inside. He's going to play outside, and he's going to carve out a role for himself. And I had him come up today and do the break after practice because his work that he's put in has been really impressive. Just to give you guys some context, Tuesdays are our harder days of our 4-day work week. It's a really heavy day, and so the load on the players is high. And what I mean by that is both acceleration, max speeds, and yardage. And so Treylon, I think, ran 3,591 yards on Tuesday, and then hit our top speed and team-leading top speed at 22.6 miles an hour in practice. So super impressive workload and performance. And so he's had a really good offseason. I'm excited about what he can bring for us. I meant when I said that the other day that I think he's going to have a role to play.
How valuable is this to see him healthy? I know he's had a lot of knickknacks and different injuries. How different is it to see him healthy?
It's always valuable when the guys are healthy. They get a chance to really lean into the work. They can really improve. It's hard sometimes when you're injured to learn and then not be able to do. And so being healthy allows you to take all the things that we talk about and be able to go on the grass and execute it. So that part's a huge advantage. So guys, when you get an off season where you're healthy, you can really make strides and really improve. And I think we'll see that.
So it's funny, Jackson, the F&M Bank chat, it seemed like the instant reaction when we carried that presser live and hearing Brian Callahan say those things about Burks, how good his offseason work has been. He ran over 3,500 yards in practice, team high max speed of 22.6 miles per hour. And the entire F&M Bank chat, oh, he's just trying to juice up a trade, incoming trade for Treylon Burks. And we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Would you rather deal Burks for a late day 3 pick or keep Burks for that wide receiver depth? And I don't think that that's BS from Brian Callahan. I think they're going to want to keep Burks and work with him on this roster. You don't have a lot of youth in that wide receiver room to have something in place for when DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd either experience a drop-off or get to the end of their deals with the Titans. I think they see the talent with Burks. Obviously, the physical talent is there and the athletic ability, like Brian Callahan's just talking about. They're going to want to keep him there because think about the discussions we've had with wide receiver depth. Before the Boyd signing, it was, okay, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Nick Westbrook-Akine. All right. Improved wide receiver core from last year, obviously. And then Burks a factor there as well, Kyle Phillips. But what were we saying about the wide receiver core? Oh, you're one injury away from being in a disastrous spot.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like, when the Titans signed Julio Jones, a lot of people were like, oh, no more, Mason Kinseys or no more, Nick Westbrook-Akines. And guess who was out there as wide receiver 1 by week 11 of 2021?
Well,
Cody Hollister.
They ended up having the worst injury-riddled season in modern NFL history is a big part of that. But you're right.
Still.
But your point absolutely is right, that you can't have enough depth because, okay, then Boyd comes into the fold, and you heard Brian Callahan. It's not official, but it's basically official. Boyd comes into the fold. One of those players goes down, misses games, which odds are it's going to happen in one place or another in the season, whether it's Hopkins, Ridley, or Boyd. Then you're in a tough spot depth-wise because you're back to Nick Westbrook-Akine or Treylon Burks being your third best option. So, no, I do not think the Tennessee Titans will try to trade away Treylon Burks. 615-737-1045 is the number. Will Levis coming up soon. But first, we'll get William, who is an owner.
A business owner.
To talk about Treylon Burks. Hey, what's up, William? What you got?
Have your finger ready to go on the button when it comes to Big Ron Slay today because he's going to give you some moments after hearing the man crush that Callahan had on Burks that you guys are going to want to play for your compadre there, Mr. Rising, on a regular basis.
And thanks for the call, William. Yeah, Slay's going to be fired up about the 22.6 miles per hour. I don't know does this mean that Treylon Burks is going to have 800, 900 yards this season? No, but it means that I think Treylon Burks is going to be a part of this wide receiver room in 2024. And all the better for the Titans if he can flash something. But first things first, stay available. Like, I'm not surprised that Treylon Burks is doing impressive things in the offseason with his speed and his conditioning. That was kind of a mark against him early on. He corrected that very quickly. It's the availability that has let him down. That has yet to be proven with Treylon Burks. All right, when we come back, Bill Callahan has been meeting with the media. We'll hear from the new offensive line coach and quarterback Will Levis set to step up to the podium. You can hear that next on 104.5 The Zone. Titans quarterback Will Levis set to meet with the media here in just a few moments. Any minute now, you'll hear from the second-year QB. Rookie minicamp officially begins tomorrow. There will be practice tomorrow. Select rookies will be available to meet with the media tomorrow afternoon. I believe that'll be during Blaine and Mickey, so you can surely tune in for that. Some interesting stuff from Brian Callahan talking about Treylon Burks, the progress he has made, the role for Treylon Burks on this team after the acquisition of Tyler Boyd, which Callahan did acknowledge. He said it's not officially official, T's that need to be crossed, I's that need to be dotted, but did talk about Tyler Boyd as though he's already a part of this football team. That was reported yesterday by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. It's also the first time we've gotten to hear from some of these assistants, Tracy Rocker, strength coach Zach Woodfin, meeting with the media, and of course, the main man, offensive line coach Bill Callahan. And we'll get right to it. I know a lot of you have been waiting to hear from Bill Callahan, specifically after the NFL draft, with the Titans taking J.C. Latham at 7, the transition that is about to happen for Latham from right tackle to left. This was the Titans offensive line coach talking about the first-round pick.
Yeah, I think, number one, his athleticism. And then, of course, all the measurable traits that he has. And then you add in size, power, strength. And it adds up, to making that move. Very similar in my experience at Dallas when I had Tyron Smith when I came into the Cowboys. He was a right tackle in college. He was a right tackle his rookie year, and we flipped him over. And I think that worked out pretty well. And then Jedrick Wills, when he was drafted out of Alabama for the Browns, was a right tackle in college. We flipped him. And another guy in my past was Barry Sims from the Raiders. He was a tackle out of Utah, who we found in the World League at that time, which no longer exists. But he ended up making that switch to left tackle as well. So I think if you have the athleticism, and you have strength, I think, and you have the muscle memory to, change some skill sets, I think it's doable.
You have any? All right, that's Bill Callahan talking about the transition J.C. Latham's about to go through. He's got receipts, Jackson. He's got names of players that he has led through that transition, mentioning Jedrick Wills, another former Alabama offensive lineman that went through that transition with the Browns. Tyron Smith is one that's very interesting. As a guy that played right tackle in college at USC, played right tackle his rookie year with the Cowboys in 2011 with Bill as his O-line coach, and then made that switch in year 2 in 2012 and was off and running from there. 2-time first-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler since that point, starting in 2013. So, again, with Bill Callahan, it just comes to the trust in the offensive line coach that if he would rather have right tackle J.C. Latham transition to the left side than X best left tackle available on the board when the Titans were picking, like an Olu Fashanu, then what else can you do but go with what the offensive line coach and guru Bill Callahan wants? That's what the Titans are doing. This was Bill Callahan on joining that staff and working under his son in a very unique situation in the NFL.
Oh, well, it was really interesting because, a year ago he was interviewing around the league, and I didn't think I was going to do that. I was going to go with him at the time, and, we had long discussions about that. But this year was a little bit different. When he got the job, I just felt compelled to help him. I felt that at this juncture in my career, God willing, how many years I got left, but I just wanted to really help him. I wanted to help the Titans, help him succeed, and it really was kind of a no-brainer in that regard. So it's family, and I want to see him succeed just like any parent wants to see their children succeed. So it's rare, it's unique, and so, yeah, I'm fired up. About it.
How happy are you to see him get the job here, and how you think he'll be as a head coach? Yeah,
I was very excited. Just overwhelmed that he got the job. It's beyond anything that I ever imagined for him. I just remember times, when he was, a teenager, going to training camp with us when I was with the Raiders. He'd stay for weeks with us, and then he'd be thrown with Jerry Rice. He'll be out there with Rich Gannon, and I had never thought that this would come to this juncture where he's at right now. But yeah, I'm incredibly proud of what he's done. Of course, all my children, I'm proud of them. But the steps that he's taken to do it on his own. It was his own path, his own journey. So, he was earned, and he was completely dedicated to and driven to do this. So, so proud of him and so excited for him as well.
That is Titans offensive line coach Bill Callahan. I'm sure it's been a cool few months for Bill getting to actually work under his son, Brian. First time ever in NFL history that an assistant coach works for his son, who is the head coach. 615-737-1045 is the number as we await Will Levis at the podium. If you want to join the discussion, everything that we have heard so far about Traylon Burks, about J.C. Latham. Stevie in the F&M Bank chat says, does this mean Peter Skoronski can move to right tackle? We'll address that comment in a little bit. The answer is no, Stevie. But Will Levis, the quarterback, is at the podium, so we go to that live here on 104.5 The Zone.
They knew everything, and I feel like it paid off. And once the OTA season kind of came around, things have been going smoothly, and just been loving everybody and everything about it.
Going back to the start of the year when they were and when it was announced, Coach, what was kind of your first reaction, first impressions, and when did you meet him?
Yeah, I think I don't remember exactly when I met him, but it wasn't too long after that. It was the day, actually, I think he met you guys, that media first press conference. So I remember I was actually dang near naked in the locker room, and it was kind of awkward. But yeah, no, it was great to meet him, and I was psyched. When we got the news about him, starting to learn about him and the quarterbacks and offenses he's worked with in the past got me really excited, and it's been great to work with them.
A lot has changed since then. Does it feel like a new team and a completely new approach, maybe things are going this offseason?
Yeah, no, it was cool to, once everyone got here, and once they realized, what we were looking for out of this team, out of this offense, how bought in everyone became right away. It was really cool to see the guys' emotions kind of start to come out from them. A lot of guys coming out of their shell. I feel like guys who maybe weren't necessarily very vocal guys are starting to come now be some juice guys in the locker room, which is really cool to see. So obviously Callie and the coaches have fostered an environment where they're allowing that to happen.
How do you characterize? You've got receivers, protection, everything. How do you like what the organization has done?
I love it. I mean, for one, it means that they're not afraid to make those investments, and they want to go win, which is awesome to see. And we know that we had the guys to make it work, but adding more guys certainly doesn't hurt, and it creates more competition and more options. And I'm just excited to work with obviously the rookies who will be here today, and then when TB gets here to get the whole kind of group together. It's going to be awesome.
How do you characterize, like, as a quarterback, wanting to make those guys better as well? Because everybody says, oh, well, they had the weapons to make Will better, but how are you going to make them better?
I think just, for one, even like when we signed TB, like obviously, there might be some guys who might not feel great about it at first, just because they might think that their opportunities might be limited then. But I think it's on me to just instill confidence in those guys and tell them that if anything, it's just going to push you harder, and that regardless of who it is, that we know that we're going to put the best player on the field, and they got to trust that. And I think it's going to be great for all of us, and just great to have that environment of competitiveness, and everyone's going to get better because of it.
How do you characterize this offense now, Will? How would you describe it?
I'd say balanced. I mean, I know it's pretty vague, but it was cool the first kind of time sitting down, being able to talk to Coach Callahan and watch some stuff, showing a lot of drop back game in situations where we might not have seen that last year. So that was cool. So being able to throw the ball a little bit more, obviously that comes with the trust in the quarterback, and I got to earn that. But him making a point to me like, hey, we're gonna throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball on first down. We're going to throw the ball in all types of situations, and it's going to be on you, and we're going to trust you to do it. So that was cool to hear that, and makes me want to go out there and be the guy to do that. So I'd say other than that, I'd say confusing, not for us, hopefully for the defense, and a lot of moving parts, a lot of things to make the defense think. A lot of things similar to what we did last year, but also just a little bit. Our little bits and pieces, our new kind of pieces that we haven't seen yet. So it's cool. It's a fun offense.
You guys familiar to you, Will, from previously? Any of it?
Yeah, actually, language-wise, it's most similar, I think, to my first year at Kentucky. So that was kind of cool hearing some of those new verbiage come back to me. It's a whole mix though, and you can get caught into that game of like putting it into last year's terminology and trying to remember it that way. But you kind of just got to wipe the slate clean and put it into the language that we're trying to push to the guys now. But it is nice that some of the things kind of clicked with me right away because I'd already ran it in the past.
Last year, when you got in the lineup, it seemed like you clicked almost immediately with D-Hop because he was a veteran guy who kind of knew the tricks of the trade. Now you've added Ridley and Boyd to that, more veteran guys. How much can those guys help you and to make the transition easier and to get on the same page?
Yeah, no, I mean, they need to help me. I need to help them. And I think, especially with TV, I texted him. I was like, I can't wait to learn the offense from you. It's cool to be able to watch the tape and all these cut-ups and him balling out and making all these plays and, on the teach tape, running these routes exactly like how we're telling everyone else to. So that's going to be some great insight to hear from a guy who's been in the offense and knows what it's like when the bullets are flying. And then with Calvin already being able to throw with him, I can tell that, we're going to be able to develop a really special connection. And he's a special type of player that I really do have to lock in with and get some chemistry with. But, no, he's been great and looking forward to get TB here.
Will Kelly talk to you about just playing with the tenacity still that you do, but, not putting an elbow or jumping over a huddle? Like, how do you balance that going into the second year of still having that edge to you, but doing it where you're not going to put your body at harm?
Yeah, no, I think it's just constantly reminding myself and understanding and studying as to when the right opportunities are to do those things. But, I just got to be smarter. Sometimes, ego and confidence can take over and you think that you can get something done when it might not be the smartest thing to do. And it's hard to do that when the bullets are flying but yeah, I got to be smarter and I'm looking forward to being that for my team this year.
This time last year, you're just getting here. How much you feel like you're ahead of the game, maybe from knowing what to expect, but from a body standpoint, just a preparation standpoint, how much did that help you going into this year?
Yeah, no, I feel great. Having these last 5-6 weeks to be with the guys and learn the offense. Obviously, having that jump start's huge. But physically, I feel like I'm in a better spot than I've been in a really, really long time. That was one of the things I was looking on improving the most this offseason, just getting healthy, getting my stuff back, and being able to play the game like I know I can. So it's been cool to feel my body, get to that point. And I'm going to keep working to even get past there.
Do you have the potential of a Latham, Skoronsky, Cushenberry, left to center sound pretty good to you? You like those prospects in terms of pass protection?
Yeah, I'm excited to get JC here. I mean, he's a freak, and I'm excited to see what he's like on the field. And being able to meet him and his family was really, really cool. And I know that we made a great choice in picking him. So, I definitely feel like we're firming up that side. But all the other additions that we're making, everyone that we're bringing in, I feel like it's developing a really good environment of competition. And, like I said, best guys are going to play regardless of who they are. So I feel like everyone in that room is really locked in, already seeing great improvements with guys who've been here. So just really excited for that whole group.
How much different does the weight room feel? I know there's some holdovers, but can you tell the difference in Zach's program? He was talking about guys being out of balance, maybe, as he pointed out. Anything to you that's different? What's it feel like?
It's been great. I mean, I've really bought into and believed in all the principles that they preach in there. I point to our speed stuff. That's been the biggest thing for me, is just getting my legs back underneath me and being able to run like I know I can. And I got to thank them for all the work that they've been able to do with me with their speed improvement drills and just all the different the mechanics of running that I believe in, that I have done in workouts in the past that I haven't in a little bit. But to get back to it, I feel like it's been really good for me.
So, Will, if you can take a snap of a catfish from Lloyd, does that make it easier when it's just a football?
For sure. We actually, we were like, we didn't know how it was going to go. We didn't take a practice snap. That thing was very slippery. It was some good wet ball work for sure.
How'd it taste?
It tasted like a catfish, yeah, but no. I remember I had to wipe my mouth off, obviously, but the taste stayed in my mouth for a little bit. I couldn't wait to get home to brush my teeth.
What's I guess vibe in the QB room this offseason with Mason and now in the league?
Yeah, it's been great. Mason's been a pleasure on the field in the meeting rooms. He's been a great addition, and Malik's just been Malik. Malik's always been just such a great person for us on the team, and someone who's pushed me on and off the field. And I think they did a good job of finding someone that meshed really well with the room, and it's been really great. I've loved those guys.
Will, Joe Burrow's talked before about how he's almost friends with Callahan more than like a coach. Have you talked to him, Coach Callahan, about that experience with Joe Burrow, or how do you think one could relate to the other going into your second year like this?
I think it's just, for one, earning his trust as a player, and then I feel like once we were able to get to that point, I do feel like there's a friendship there, but I've never really had that. I feel like where it's like a friend with a coach. You always have that like dynamic of like he's the boss and I'm his worker, but he's done a good job of coming in with the mindset of like, hey, yeah, I'm the coach. What I say goes, and I'm going to tell you guys what to do, but I'm also here for you guys and to talk about anything. So I feel like I've been able to talk with him comfortably about other things other than football. So he's been great in that way.
Knowing how much he's worked with Burrow, with Peyton Manning, Stafford, those guys, like, does that come up in conversation, or even are you watching some of the things that he did with those guys with him?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, all the tape we watch, from the installs to even just the individual drills, it's Joe, it's Matt, it's Peyton, and it's cool to see those guys and know that they've been in a system at least similar to this, or very similar to this, and been able to have great success. So, it's big shoes to fill, but I want to be that next guy and get to that level. But yeah, I don't want to be them. I want to be me, but I want to perform and exceed the levels that they performed at.
Part of that relationship, he was obviously documented too, is he actually has said, hey, I want to listen to the quarterback more. If they don't like something, I'm willing to listen. Like, how much was that exciting to hear that he has some open ears?
Yeah, no, I think that being in my second year and being the guy going into it, like, that was something I was looking forward to, and I'm glad that he has that personality where he's open to that, and I'm able to come to him with ideas and talk about footwork and how we can tweak little things here and there. I feel like there's even just been a couple things where there has been a couple changes like that, so I can be very open about how I feel about everything, which feels great.
What's it like a month back when you push back in those conversations? What is it like? How does he respond? How do you guys kind of reach a middle ground consensus? I
mean, it's usually just like I'll look at it and talk about it further. It's not like it's ever like, sure, we'll do it right now. But like today, even on it was like a play action footwork. Like, I feel like I was moving my feet around too much. I was like, hey, can I just stay a little more stationary? He's like, yeah, let's talk about it, but I don't see why not. So that was cool, and I'm looking forward to continuing that relationship.
Season, when you left, you said that you had hoped that they would keep you in the loop when decisions are made and things like that. How do you feel like that whole process went?
It was good, yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be the guy to make any decisions, but they definitely were like keeping me, on tabs as to who we were looking at, who we were considering, and then when a decision was made, I had known, before the general public did, so that's always good to know. But yeah, for them to keep me in the loop means that they trust me and that they want me to, be happy about the decisions that are made, which obviously I've been ecstatic.
Were you part of the recruiting process at all with free agents?
I wouldn't say so, no. I mean, I wasn't like calling, texting dudes. More so just seeing what was out there and letting them make the decision from there.
Talk to Ryan Tannehill at all, and so you surprised at all that he hasn't signed with the team?
I'm very surprised. I mean, I think Ryan's a heck of a quarterback, and I think that he could still play in this league. And yeah, he was such a huge part of my development as a player and as a person. And him and his family, Lauren and his kids are great people and people that I got close with. But I haven't talked to him too much, but I do wish him the best, and I know that he's still got a future in this league.
Given all that newness kind of around everything, Will, what's kind of the main thing that you focus on this time of year?
With the newness going around, the main thing I focus on, the new offense, I'd just say like getting to know the offense, and by the time we get back to training camp here, literally like know this thing like the back of my hand, and be able to just run it and not even have to go to meetings if I don't need to, and be able to run the meetings essentially. So that's the biggest thing for me, locking in on the playbook and obviously developing as a leader, getting to know these guys, especially the new ones, and just feeling out the locker room and being there however I can for anybody.
All right, that is Titans quarterback Will Levis featuring the Titans press conference music on the back end right here on 104.5 The Zone. Interesting stuff from the quarterback. We'll react and take your phone calls. Last call for them, 615-737-1045. We'll do the polls, wrap up the show next on 104.5 The Zone. Little $1 million baby to come back. Jackson nailing down the vibe. I like it. This is the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Rising is out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, meeting with Titans assistants. New strength coach Zach Woodfin meeting with the media today. So hopefully that is something that regularly occurs. Obviously, Titans reporters never got the opportunity really to speak with the strength staff in the Vrabel era. So Zach Woodfin, I'm sure you'll see plenty of quotes coming from him, as well as Tracy Rocker, Tyke Tolbert, Bill Callahan, of course, the assistants, and Brian Callahan and Will Levis, who spoke at the podium today. A lot of overlap between what we heard from Callahan and Levis. It was like you can kind of pinpoint some of the conversations they've been having. For example, Callahan talking about Joe Burrow and now moving over to work with Will Levis and not wanting Levis to be Burrow, to be himself, to play to his strengths. Levis echoing that, said, I don't want to be Joe Burrow. I want to be myself in this offense. And also some of the things they're working on with Levis in terms of laying his body on the line during games. Both Brian Callahan and Will Levis echoing some of that stuff where Callahan says, yeah, I'd prefer not to see him lower his shoulder over the middle of the field, right, for an 8-yard gain. Everybody on this team understands Will Levis's toughness. He doesn't need to be doing that stuff. Brian Callahan, in so many words. Same with Will Levis, who said he's got to be smarter with that type of stuff, not let ego and confidence kind of work against him in that way. So interesting to see a lot of that stuff carry over. And Will Levis saying that the language in this offense is similar to his first year at Kentucky, I thought was interesting, when he played for Liam Cohen. So going back to that 2021 season, we remember it was the best season of Will Levis's football career, college or pro. 66% completed 66% of his passes, 2,826 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So Levis lost a lot of weapons. He had offensive coordinator turnover the year after, was battling through injuries, obviously struggled a bit during that 2022 season. So the one mark on that 2021 year is a thing that hurt Levis coming out. Accuracy, decision-making through 13 interceptions in that season. But interesting to hear him say the language is very similar because this is the best situation Levis has been in since that 2021 season at Kentucky, right? I mean, the Wildcats had a good offensive line. Wan'Dale Robinson, Barryon Brown had not gotten there yet, but a better overall crop of weapons. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator. And that was a 10-win football team. Levis staying healthy was a big part of that too. But the fact that this is Will Levis's best situation, because a lot's been made of the OC turnover he's had basically in every year of his football career. So it stands to reason the Titans are going to try to pull from that 2021 season as much as possible when everything we have learned about Brian Callahan is about playing to the quarterback's strengths, not square peg, round hole, you're going to play my system, playing to the quarterback's strengths. So I guess it's not terribly shocking to hear Will Levis talk about some of those similarities from that Kentucky offense back in 2021. Last call for phone call, 615-737-1045. Before we get to the polls, Buffalo Works in Concrete is up next. What's up, Buffalo?
That dude is a stud. You listen to him talk. I mean, he's pretty impressive, and he's a big boy. But I was going to ask about Sweat. I didn't know if there was a target weight that they were trying to make him hit, and if he was going to be fined if he didn't hit that. And I'll hang up and listen.
Well, Buffalo, thanks for the call. T'Vondre Sweat did mention that he's trying to get down to 250, 255, even said he'll be a Hall of Famer if he does. And it's funny you bring up the fine system because Rand Carthon spoke on this at the Install Live event last Friday. By the way, the full podcast is out on the Install podcast feed. Part 1 is out on YouTube, so you can go check that out on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube page. Subscribe while you're there. This was Rand Carthon talking about exactly that.
So there's a thing in the NFL called the fine system. And so if he wants to part ways with his money, that's on him. But no, I mean, that's true. But everything that we do is to support all of these young men, right? So it doesn't matter if it's him or whoever it may be, because people only think about the weight clause as when they're over. Sure. But when you have guys that are under too. You know, it's like you have a weight that you need to play at. And so our job is to surround these guys with as much resources as possible to make them successful. We'll determine that once he gets in. And that is
says 366.
And that is the true answer, because one thing we knew, even coming into it, whether he played at 340 or he played at 366, his conditioning numbers didn't change. And he played a ton of snaps, at that weight at Texas. And so once we get him in, we're going to do a body comp, check bone density, because you hear 366 and you still got a man that's moving 17, 18, 19 miles an hour, in some spurts. You just want to find out where's the sweet spot for him. And we'll figure that out once we get him in next week.
That's Fran Carthon speaking at the Install Live event last Friday. Again, you can go back. The full podcast is out, and part 1 is out on YouTube. Parts 2 and 3 will be coming out with Fran Carthon pretty soon. 104.5 The Zone's YouTube page. So, yeah, a lot of focus will be on T'Vondre Sweat, right, for the rest of the offseason. Tracy Rocker, the new defensive line coach, spoke on Sweat today, too. Don't have time for that today. Maybe you'll hear from Tracy Rocker tomorrow. But for now, let's do some polls.
Not now, Jenny. I'm on the radio. Buck Rising gave me a job. Said something about a poll update. Hope that wasn't at that club where you became a folk singer. Anyway, Buck Rising's producer and correspondent has the final poll update. I'm not a smart man, but I know who Lucas Panzica is.
These are the polls, and they're presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What would you rather do with Titans wide receiver Treylon Burks? 86% going with keep for depth, and 14% going trade for a late-round pick.
Keep Treylon Burks on the roster. You heard Brian Callahan talking about him, but your depth at receiver went from concerning, right, high-level starters, especially at 1 and 2, but concerning depth. With the addition of Tyler Boyd, you've gotten even better with 1, 2, and 3, and your depth is now solid, right? Not great, not best in the NFL, but solid. Keep Treylon Burks.
What Titans rookie are you most paying attention to at rookie minicamp? A lot of answers for J.C. Latham. A lot of answers to how T'Vondre Sweat comes in shape.
Yeah, T'Vondre Sweat's probably the number one answer, just when you consider how little we actually are going to learn about Latham and his mechanics as a left tackle. That'll be more for training camp. I saw Callahan Quinn on Twitter said David Long 2.0, assuming he means Cedric Gray. Very important offseason for Cedric Gray as well, the rookie linebacker.
Outside of Caleb Williams, which first-round rookie quarterback is in the best situation? 54% going with McCarthy, 20% with Penix, 10% with Nix, and 16% with Jaden Daniels.
It's J.J. McCarthy to me. J.J. McCarthy has the best roster situation around him. I'd argue it's better than what Caleb Williams has in Chicago.
And what do you want to hear from Will Levis today? A lot of questions in the chat. Karen says, are you still putting mayo in your coffee?
Yeah, poor Levis. I don't know when the mayo stuff is ever going to end for him. Are those the polls?
Those are the polls.
And that's the show. That's it for me for a while, Jackson. The show is now up to you in terms of its supervision. So I hope you can handle that well. Jackson and Buck will be with you guys. I will see y'all the week after next. Blaine and Mickey coming up next right here on 104.5 The Zone. It is lunchtime. It's the best time of the day. Hey, it's Lucas Panzica. I'm not going to lead you astray on telling you where you should go. So trust me when I say Hattie B's is the spot for your lunch on this Thursday. Any one of their 6 locations, the factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, even the Nashville Airport. I got to catch a flight later this week. I bet you I'll stop by Hattie B's, because Hattie B's is a family-run restaurant serving up your favorite Southern food, authentic Nashville hot chicken. Be sure to download the Hattie B's app if you want to skip the line. You also get a free dessert when you do so. Some banana pudding, some peach cobbler. You really can't go wrong. How hot can you go? Hot or not, you choose. You want to go mild all the way up to shut the clock.
So many people trust Two Rivers Ford. Football players, working moms, business owners. Why? Because Two Rivers Ford has been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.